Hi guys, it's Rob from Quench Cycles, back again to kind of talk again in a bit more detail about helmets. Obviously we've all been to a bike shop in the past and there's been loads of helmets sitting on the shelves, up on the walls, and you can look at them and go, wow, what's that all about? There can be loads of that look very similar, but there are differences between them that will give you definite benefits out on the trail. So let's go through and demystify the buying of helmets. So really there's kind of a handful of things to look for when you're buying a helmet, and this is universal. It doesn't matter kind of how much experience you've got on the trail, it doesn't matter how new you are, what kind of style of riding you're doing, they're kind of the fundamental things to look for. And obviously number one of that is fit. The helmet has got to fit your head properly. There's no point buying it if it's sitting in the back of your head, if it's not kind of comfortable around your head, if it moves around too much, you might as well not have it on the trail. You want it to stay on your head if you do have a crash, that's what it's there for. So fit is kind of absolute number one most important thing for the helmet. Following on from fit, obviously you're going to want to know kind of how much protection that helmet is giving you. Now, every helmet must conform to the same minimum safety standards, but that is a minimum. So really from there you need to think about what kind of riding you're doing, what risk you're exposing yourself to on the trail potentially, and then what level of protection and what kind of helmet you need from there. But the main thing to bear in mind is obviously you've only got one head, so you want to make sure you give it as much protection as you can in the event of a crash. So protection wise, you've got a basic helmet, so one like this gyro tremor. Inside you've just got a basic, essentially expanded polystyrene construction. So that is about as basic as you get. Most helmets up to about 45-50 pounds will have that basic construction. It'll do the job if you do come off, but it's not going to give you the highest level of protection. So if you are pushing yourself on the trails a bit more, then it's worth looking at having the next level of protection up from there. So from that, next level up from your standard kind of single polystyrene layer is introducing a system called MIPS, or a similar rotational system. So MIPS is this yellow layer inside the helmet that you can probably see there. And basically that system allows the outer part of the helmet, so this section here, to rotate slightly if you have a crash. That helps to dissipate rotational force in the brain, which is a contributing factor to concussion. So there's a lot of research and development goes into this kind of tech. It's been on the shelves for quite a while now, but is now coming down in price. So MIPS is the next way to go. So from MIPS, after there, you're looking at a couple of things now. One is the style of the helmet you're choosing to ride on with. So something like the Fox Speedframe Pro here, this is a really good kind of top end trail lid. So it gives you a decent amount of protection down the back of the helmet there, but it's also nice and light, really well ventilated. It's got your MIPS system inside, but this one in particular also has an extra level of protection inside, which is a dual density EPS liner. So basically what that means is that having those two densities of foam inside really helps to dissipate energy through the helmet far more effectively than a single layer which you get on most helmets. So again, this is kind of top end, but basically that is where your kind of top end trail lids come in. So as a trail lid, you're looking at reasonably deep section of the back of the helmet, covering plenty of the forehead and loads of ventilation. From your trail lid, you go on to your Enduro style helmets. So this is really where you're starting to push yourselves on the trails that bit more. You're riding a bit faster, you're maybe riding steep or more exposed terrain, where the extra level of protection could be very useful if you have a crash, hopefully you won't. So you can see the big difference with this is you've got much more protection around the head. You've got these ear flaps, so it's much closer to a full face helmet, but it's a lot lighter with much better ventilation. These still have MIPS in them, so this is called the Fox Drop Frame. So it's a really bridge in the ground between the Speedframe Pro kind of trail lid and the full face lid we'll show you in a moment. So something like that, if you're riding more exposed, more gnarly terrain, you might want to consider something along the lines of an Enduro style lid. From your Enduro lid, we then go on to your full face helmets. So quite obviously significantly different to the previous helmets we've talked about. Offers protection all around the head, far heavier than your standard trail lid or your Enduro lid, less ventilation, but the design of this is such that if you have a big crash going really fast, you're going to get as much protection as possible around your head. Downsides to it are it's a lot heavier, you don't want to be pedaling all day in it, your head will get a lot hotter. But you know, if you're doing an uplift day, if you're riding bike parks, some insist on a full face helmet. If you're going out to the mountains, to the Alps, something like that, or you're downhill racing, that is really where you want to be looking. Loads of different options with a full face, from polycarbonate shells like this, right through to full carbon fibre, and obviously prices vary accordingly. But a full face lid is really kind of the highest level of protection you are going to get on a crash helmet. And just to round things off, one thing we haven't mentioned so far is kids helmets and crash helmets for younger people as well. So the same kind of rules apply as far as fit and everything else goes. It's got to fit well, it's got to have a good level of protection. Something like the Bell Sidetrack that we always have in stock. There's a nice deep back to it, so loads of protection on the back of the head. Still nice and light and well ventilated. It's still got a proper retention system in there as well. So it's basically a shrunk adult helmet. That's really what you want to be looking for a kid's lid. So for kind of under £40, $36.99, absolute steal. But just remember, if you're buying a helmet for a child, make sure you try it on them first. The other thing to make sure as well and to remember is that every brand's sizing inside is slightly different. So that's why we do not only Fox but Gyro and Bell helmets as well, because not everyone's got the same shaped head. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a good overview of what to look for when you're buying a helmet. If you've got any questions, do let us know. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon. Right, so Emma here has just bought herself a brand spanking new crash helmet to go rip those trails. However, Emma hasn't bought it the right way. As you can see, this is way too far in the back of the head. It's also far too big. Your helmet should not cover your eyes in any way, shape or form. Also, it is not a baseball cap to wear backwards. This will be entirely useless should you come off. Emma has now taken some advice from a reputable bike shop. She now has a helmet that fits her properly. It sits in the correct way of the head, covering her forehead, and should she come off, will actually protect her properly. Be like Emma, make sure your helmet fits properly.